Okay, I am going to call this meeting to order for the North Andover School Committee for April 2nd, 2020. Back into session. Just going to let people know this meeting is being recorded. Okay. I got to read a few things here, so be patient with me, folks. As a preliminary matter, this is David Turisi, the chair of the North Andover School Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Holly Lynch.
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute.
Amy Mably.
Here.
Mr. Andrew McDevitt.
Here.
Vice Chair Helen Picard.
Yes.
And David Turisi, chair, is here. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dr. Greg Gilligan, superintendent, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, David.
Okay. Dr. James Milley is present here. Are we, anyone else on the line today, Greg? Is Lorene or Marcy going to be joining us?
Yes, I'm here. This is Lorene, and Marcy will be trying to join in a little bit.
Okay, so that was Assistant Superintendent Lorene Marks. Thank you. We don't.
And I'm here, Suzanne Egan.
I'm sorry, that Marcy?
Oh, no, it's Suzanne Egan.
Oh, I'm sorry. The town council, Suzanne Egan there. Thank you, Suzanne. I'm sorry I didn't have you on my list. Okay. We don't anticipate any speakers on the agenda tonight, so that's fine. Okay, so this open meeting of the North Andover School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely, which everyone is. Me and Dr. Milley are here at central office, more than 6 feet apart. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the North Andover School Committee is convening by video conference. Google Meets, sound right? And it's posted on the town's website identifying how may join. Please note the meeting is being recorded, so you'll see this on cable TV again. Okay. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer. I think most people are on the computer when you are not speaking. And please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage, please do so through the chair, always taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken tonight will be conducted by roll call, so there'll be no voice votes going forward. Okay, the first order of business today is our consent agenda. Approval of minutes from March 12th, 2020. Could I get a motion to put the minutes on the floor, please?
Chair Teresi, this is Andrew McDevitt, and I move to approve the minutes as presented in the packet.
And Amy Mably seconds the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. McDevitt, seconded by Amy Mably to approve the minutes from March 12, 2020 as presented in the packet. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will now call the roll. Ms. Mably, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. McDevitt, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Picard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Lynch, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Chair Turisi votes yes as well. So that's approved 5-0. Thank you. So that is the consent agenda. Okay. We will now move to the superintendent's report. I will now recognize Dr. Greg Gilligan.
Good evening, Chair Turisi. I think I'm able to get.
A little louder, Greg.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Maybe a little bit louder. No, Brian says we're good. Good.
All right. Thank you, Chair Turisi. First and foremost, I hope that tonight finds all of our families in North Andover well in this unprecedented extended school closure. It's been a challenge for everybody, and it's nothing like I think we've ever seen in public education. In fact, the last time public schools in North Andover were closed, they were closed for over a month in 1918, for about a month with the influenza pandemic. That said, it's been quite a couple weeks. You know, back on March 11th, we were talking about possibly canceling or postponing Mr. North Andover. And then we went to a 2-week closure, extended to a 3rd week, which has been a real challenge on families everywhere. That said,
That's better.
that's better.
Yep.
That first 3 weeks has been a challenge for everybody, and like many communities, we've worked really hard to follow the recommendations from the Department of Ed, DESE, during these first 3 weeks, which are considered non-school days and closed, to provide learning activities for students during this difficult time and to keep learning alive. You know, last week, I know that the governor, like many of you, I learned riding in the car on the radio that the governor had extended the closure. And then just this last Friday, superintendents and districts met with the commissioner across the Commonwealth about new guidance on how to move forward during this extended closure. And I hope people have been keeping up with notices on the website about our plans to transition to a more robust and structured learning with remote learning. And I'll have the assistant superintendent talk a little bit more about that. But I appreciate folks' patience at home. I appreciate all the work of our teachers, reaching out, connecting with folks, and I appreciate a great leadership team here that's been working tirelessly, trying to come up with a thoughtful plan for folks that is keeping equity in mind, and B is one that is in guidance with what's best for kids. And I think really the most important thing is keeping our kids healthy, their own safety and wellness, and have them keep social distancing. I think that's important. We will keep this equity in mind, and we look forward to continuing increased connections with our kids moving forward. So that was number one. Secondly, I had an update on the Atkinson principal search. We had a really terrific schedule and a timeline, and all of that went in a different direction last few weeks. So we had a great committee, initial committee that had 3 candidates, which we all interviewed, and they picked 3 finalists. And I'll talk about them in a second. But the 3 finalists will be interviewing with my team next week, just as we traditionally do. Some of the other things in terms of getting feedback from folks other than the committee, parents, staff, community members. We're setting up some virtual meetings, already have had some today with other members of the parents of the PTO, as well as staff, so that they can provide us with feedback on each candidate. And the 3 finalists that are for Atkinson are Paula Jones. She's currently a principal in Danvers of an elementary school. Teresa Gilbert, she's currently an assistant principal in Salisbury, Massachusetts. And last but not least, the other finalist is our interim Atkinson principal, Erin O'Loughlin. So those are the updates on the Atkinson. And most importantly, I hope families are doing well. Please know it's not lost on me, the challenges of folks trying to continue to work, have kids at home, and for us to keep connections and provide meaningful enrichment activities these first 3 weeks. But we're looking to transition to that more robust structure, and we'll be communicating more details with that. Yes.
Greg, before you move on to your next subject, why don't we just see if anyone has any questions first on the Atkins School Principal update before you move on to your next agenda item. So I don't know if there's any questions, but let me go down the line and ask, Mr. McDevitt, do you have any questions or concerns or ideas for the Atkinson School Principal update?
I don't. I do just want to say, Dr. Gilligan, it's extremely difficult to hear you. So if you have means to be closer to your computer or just project a little bit better, that I think would go over very well with the community who I know is listening at home.
Thank
safely.
you. Thank you, Mr. McDevitt. Ms. Mabley, any questions regarding the Atkinson School Principal update?
No, I appreciate the update, and I would also, Mr. McDevitt said, and if all the rest of us who are participating can mute our phones, it'll help a great deal to cut back. There's still some numbers that are keeping their mic live when it would be helpful if they did not.
Ms. Lynch?
Nope, no questions.
Thank you. Ms. Picard?
Just one question, which is generally we have a performance task for principal candidates, and I'm wondering if that is able to be included in this process this time.
Dr. Gilligan?
Ms. Picard, can you hear me now? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, I've never been accused of not being able to be heard.
Before you speak, Dr. Gilligan, there are people on the phone who do not have their mics muted. That is what our problem is with hearing you. If you're on the phone, if you can mute your mic, that will make a difference.
I am not sure how to mute mine on the phone I'm on. I'm happy to hang up and call back in when you need me to speak.
Okay, Dr. Gilligan, give it a try, please.
Okay. Yeah, so Ms. Picard is part of that. When they do a final interview with me and my close team here at Central Office, we will be continuing to do our different scenarios and performance type tasks. And yes, we'll continue with that method.
Thank you.
And Greg, lastly from me, and this is David Teresi, the chair. You might have said it, I might have missed it. What is the timeline, and when do you think we'll be have a full-time, a permanent Atkinson School Principal?
Well, the director of HR, Greg Landry, was conducting those sessions today for feedback from additional folks other than the committee, including staff. And I'll be interviewing them. I believe it's set for Monday or Tuesday, and I hope to have a decision next week after, we do all the traditional things, checking references, et cetera, as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gilligan. Now you can move on to your second agenda item, please.
Okay, and the second piece is remote learning. And this is the opportunity to provide, more robust and structured opportunities for our kids to learn moving forward. We just got these recommendations from the commissioner on Friday morning at 10 in our meeting. We came out maybe the day before, so we'll have them for about a week. I have to say that we've been working very closely with the union, who have been terrific, and our teachers and principals working really hard, and Lorene Marks and the curriculum team and special education, taking into account all the very complex issues with providing this more structure. And we will be sending out more information on that, hopefully at the end of the day tomorrow. And I can have Ms. Marks talk a little bit more about what remote learning looks like. It is not synonymous with virtual learning or online learning. And please know that we have worked really closely, particularly with the surrounding communities, who are all in the same boat as all of us, that we will have to plan for the future. There's a lot of questions down the road about graduations and MCAS and different components for guidance from the state. But we've worked hard to be able to put things together that are more structured for our kids to do. And we'll have, those details going forward outlined in the communications we've been sending out. So, Ms. Marks?
Yes, so you covered a lot of what I was going to say, but we are finalizing details. It's going to look a little bit different at each level, pre-K, elementary, middle school, and high school. But we are working to maintain some levels of consistency, providing learning opportunities by standards and by grade level teams in the elementary schools, by the teams in the middle school, and then the high school is a little different because those are courses, so by courses. We have a new section for our website, which will be live from Monday morning, and all teachers should have work up available for students Monday morning at 8 o'clock.
Thanks, Lorraine. I also want to point out that all districts locally struggle with, equal access, equity, all of those things. And please know that, we have reached out through initially in the first week of closure, all of our students who receive free and reduced lunch to provide them with internet and Chromebooks. And I think we had given about 150 then. And I think at this point, for families in need, we've given out close to about 650 Chromebooks at this time to help assist with this remote learning. And Dr. Mealy, could you please talk about the meals? I think the numbers have been staggering.
They have been staggering. Now, so even the last day of when we were doing the Monday through Friday, we had gotten to over 2,000 meals a day. And now that we are at double the meals Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, actually triple on Fridays because people can get meals for both Saturday and Sunday as well as Friday. We were up over 2,400 on the first day that we did the doubles day. And so we are delivering a lot of meals, and the work that the food services in the town is doing with us. Dee Casey's there every day. Rick Gorman has been there. Lori Burzlaff has been there. It's been a real team effort. We get a lot of comments about how appreciative people are that it's being done. And I have to give a real shout out to Erica Murphy, our food services director, who's just done a yeoman's job in making sure it's happened. And if anybody doesn't know yet, we got the okay finally to move from the library to the high school, which has worked out much better as well. People asked why were we doing the library? Well, we had to because we had done the summer program, and it was the only reason we had qualified to serve the meals that we were serving, because we had done the summer program, but because we had done it from the library, we had to continue to do it from the library until they gave us the okay, and now it's at the high school.
Thank you, Dr. Neely.
Is that
Any questions?
Yeah. So let's go down the line. We'll just reverse it this time first. Ms. Picard, do you have any questions or comments regarding that update?
I just think that's really tremendous, and I congratulate everybody involved. We couldn't have known last summer when we rushed through our summer feeding program that it was going to have such a benefit to the community now. So I'm just really thankful for all those people that did those things.
Ms. Lynch, any comments, questions?
Just a comment that I think it's outstanding.
Thank you. Ms. Mabley?
I appreciate all the work that everyone's doing. And can I just clarify that the meals that are being served are not just to students, is that correct?
Correct. So it's a combination. We are serving meals to students and as well as the senior citizens and citizens in the town. And the town will fund those meals because the student meals are the ones that are reimbursable.
Right. No, I think that that's a tremendous partnership, as you mentioned, with all the people working together, but it's really shows how the schools are part of our community, and the community is part of the schools. So I appreciate all that.
Thank you. Andrew?
I do. I have a couple of questions, of course. So I'm wondering, and this may be for Mrs. Marks, but in terms of just talking a little bit about what's going to be coming at the different levels, I'm wondering if you could go into a little bit more detail about what that's going to look like. I mean, I think there's a lot of questions in the community. If there's online classes, if there's work that's assigned, students at the high school have now entered into what should be trimester 3. Can you give us any indication of what that is?
Yes. So the commissioner has suggested that students have about half the time that they're normally in school to be able to do some work at home. And that's really a combination of things. It's not all teacher directed. Teachers will do a variety of things. They will post in Google Classroom. They may post assignments. They may post notes. They may post a short video of them presenting some information. So that will take on a variety of forms. We are trying to be cognizant and not have students be required to print out any materials. Not every family has a printer at home. So there are a lot of things like that that we're trying to take into consideration as we plan out how this is going to go and give teachers some guidelines. Just along those lines in terms of supplies, we are also looking at, hopefully next week sometime, providing some school supplies, probably at the lunch drop-off for any families that need that. And may include some art supplies too for the younger students. At the middle school, it will be much like I described. The teachers will be working on teams. They are going to do a couple of more weeks of trimester 2. A lot of that is around the related art people and needing to finish up that piece. Then they will transition to trimester 3. And the high school is planning to begin trimester 3 on Monday. So they will meet their new students. The students will meet new teachers for new classes in many cases, not all cases.
Okay. Can you give us any indication right now in terms of work and whether or not it's graded? How is that conceivably going to roll out? And the answer to that, maybe we don't know until maybe we get closer to the March 5th date, but I'm just wondering what the Department of Education is saying at this point.
Right now, we are looking to do our very best to be able to track students and make sure that we are accessing all students. Again, as Dr. Gilligan had mentioned, we're very concerned about access and equity for all of our students. We recognize that this is going to be a challenge for teachers and students and their families. We have parents that are still having to go to work. Kids may be home with little supervision or little guidance or support around the academic piece. We are looking to try to make this as flexible as possible, so we're not demanding that a student check into the computer for his or her class at any particular time. We will have things posted that morning across all grade levels, but we recognize if there's only one computer or one Chromebook in the home and there's 3 students, they can't all be in class at 8 o'clock. So we're trying to take all those things into consideration. Given all of that, we are not looking to give grades as we move forward, more just looking at participation and credit / incomplete for the high school and the middle school. That incomplete is there rather than a credit, no credit, or pass, not passing, in order to allow students, once we get back into school, if they need support to finish the work, to get that. So our goal is to have all students get full credit.
Okay, so I just want to be clear that I'm kind of understanding this. So work conceivably that may be occurring while we are out of school until the beginning part of May. Be somewhat participation, still the expectation that it is done and it is completed, but that staff are flexible in terms of, things that are going on in the home in terms of computers and parents and, access to all of those things. So I think that that's good. And then coming back in we're picking up and we're, you know, back into a graded situation where, you know, there's tests and assignments and papers and, you know, all of that stuff kind of marching up to the June 19th end of the year.
Correct.
And
Okay.
I would just echo Andrew, we're still finalizing some of those details, but it will be in line with what local high schools are all facing and working on. It's a challenge everywhere, and I think that it will be similar in schools across the Commonwealth. And I would just point out that we know that there's a lot of questions, but people will have questions about you know, college application, AP, MCAS.
Yep.
What the school day looks like and what it used to be is very different right now than it's ever been. And, you know, please know that every student in the country and in Massachusetts is in the same boat. And that, you know, we're working hard that students will not regress in skills. But you know, during this, there will be more things to come and guidance from the state, but that everyone's in this boat. And I think collectively that we all have to take a deep breath and just understand that, you know, folks are working from home. Parents, you know, most parents and guardians, they're not teachers. And that, you know, particularly at the elementary level, at all levels, it's important is, you know, a connection to try to have some more normalcy in their day and the health and well-being, socially and emotionally, of all of our kids. And, you know, particularly at the younger levels, about making those connections in a variety of ways, deepening those foundational skills as we, and at the upper levels will be similar as we finalize that. Is other schools in the area with the challenge of making sure that we track down all of our kids. We've been working really hard to figure out who, you know, we have not been able to make contact with. I know that these first 3 weeks of voluntary optional, you know, activities in districts across the state have been hard to even wrap your head around. But we're working hard to have that structure, and we'll have more information on that. But it is, it's a challenge. And as a dad who's in a house with a spouse that's working in an 1,832 square foot house, I've been able to come to the office, but I have, you know, 2 students, you know, online and doing different work. But it's going to look radically different, and it will be in a variety of ways. We'll learn. And we have to realize that, please know that we will track down kids as we find they haven't connected or we haven't been able to teach. And we're particularly concerned about some of our students most vulnerable, you know, EL students that may not have access, and we're pursuing every way possible to track that down. So I just say I appreciate all the work of the teachers, the administrators, everyone putting things together, and you know, it's hard on everyone, and I particularly think about, I was thinking about the seniors in high school today, and you know, some of the more rites of passage, even just, you know, prom and you know, people have been asking about graduation. I think we have to see how this unfolds, and this is a health crisis, and we will do our best to make sure that we engage kids, and the kids in North Andover aren't falling behind as we ensure continuation of learning.
Yep.
Ms. McDevitt, any more questions?
I do actually.
Go ahead, sure.
So in terms of participation that's going on, I mean, are we expecting the students do a certain percentage of what's kind of put out there?
We
Andrew, it's
haven't
gonna-
really.
Get Dr.
Go ahead,
Gilligan
Greg.
or Lorraine.
I was going to say, Andrew, and I'll let you go, Lorraine. You know, we've been working on this 13, 14 hours a day in collaboration with Andover, McLuhan, Haverhill, Reading, all the North Reading. It's going to be different. I encourage folks to check out the recommendations from the commissioner. But we're looking to transition from these voluntary optional pieces to provide the ability for kids to deepen those skills. And the high school may look different than the other levels, but it will be consistent with, you know, best practices for something that's never occurred.
Ms. Marks, do you want to address that at all, or on that?
I agree with what I would just concur with what Dr. Gilligan is saying, and I think it's a work in process. We're going to have to really assess how many students we're actually accessing, are participating, what that actually looks like. I think we're not at this point putting any sort of percentage on anything because we really don't know how this is going to look or feel once we get it going.
Thank you. Mr. McDevitt?
Andrew, I would add one thing. When we do send information to parents as we finalize it, it will have clarity and be really clear of what to expect, so that folks know where they're going.
Yep, I think two things I would just kind of add to that. One, I mean, I think that we've tried to pay attention to, you know, what's happening with coming out in Google Classrooms, but, you know, I did actually have teachers reach out because there were things that my own children had missed out there. And so, you know, on one hand, I really want to commend the teachers for kind of taking the time and the initiative to kind of say, you know, maybe somebody missed something there or they didn't know where something is. And I think that that's really important because we didn't realize that, you know, some of the things that were there, you know, how they were just kind of shared with the students and they were just missed. And so, you know, I really want to thank the teachers, of course, for doing that. But, you know, that may be something that we just want to continue to encourage with them, you know, hey, did you know that this was here or this wasn't there? And then, you know, perhaps following up with, you know, parents and just saying, you know, hey, just wanted to let you know, that they could have missed something, you know, maybe they didn't see something, but I think, you know, we're all trying to navigate this. And, you know, it's not just the students who, you know, may not be really as great as our digital literacy program is, you know, that they may just not know where something is. And some of the parents may not know that as well. So I think, you know, just kind of really stressing where the information is, how to do that, how to check up on all of that, you know, is going to be very, very important for us. The other thing I would just kind of add is, or it's a little bit of a question, but are there other things that we are doing, and this might be perhaps for Marcy, regarding students who are in any form of educational plans or other things of that nature? Anything different those parents might expect?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Can you introduce
Perfect.
yourself, Marcy?
Yes, this is Marcy Bacuzzi. So thank you for the question. And I actually sent a letter to families prior. Mike got it out for me around 6 o'clock tonight with some of those expectations on it. Their program, you know, just based on special education guidance that has, you know, been, we'll call it fluid over the past couple of weeks. So those students will continue to work on their goals and objectives. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different, but similar to what Lorene and Gilly are saying, it's a work in progress. So that will also be rolled out on Monday, and teachers have been working on that for the last couple of weeks as well.
Great. Great.
I'll sit, Andrew.
And then I guess the very last question that I have for right now is, you know, there's been a number of states who have already canceled the entire school year. If Massachusetts goes down the road, which I'm certainly hoping that they don't do that, are we still thinking perhaps that we are going to continue with the expectation of trying to do what we can online and remote and with assistance out there to keep our students kind of engaged and continue the learning process? Or are we too early for that?
Andrew, I think we're Can you hear me, Andrew?
Okay, Greg.
I can, yep.
Okay, Brian Fraser had given me a headset. We're absolutely
Much better.
working on that. I think that this extended closure that's moving beyond this 3-week non-school day closure is really designed to take us through that. And I would just say that, this will not replicate what teachers do face-to-face daily. There'll be a variety of methods, and remote learning is not synonymous, as I said, with online virtual learning, like classes. And that's not something you're necessarily going to see in Massachusetts. What you will see is folks connecting with people via maybe a video conference or posting things. There'll be office hours, there'll be opportunities to email. And I think to your point, there may be opportunities where we have to provide, or situations, hard copies of things where we try to meet these needs. But we do anticipate there's a possibility of school going beyond that. And I think that's why it took so long for the commissioner to come up with recommendations that we just got less than a week ago.
Thank you. Andrew, else? All right, Ms. Picard, you have another question?
Yes, and I appreciate what Dr. Gilligan has just shared. I am interested in, and I may need to wait for some information about the guidelines of how teachers will be in contact with students, whether they're going to have, I just heard Dr. Gilligan say that they're going to have office hours. It sounds like they're going to have live access through Google Hangouts or some other access, as well as email and obviously telephone. So I'm interested in what those guidelines are going to be. Like, how often can a student expect to have an interaction with a teacher versus just watching a video that's been prepared in advance, or just having the assignments that are available online. So I'm looking for those guidelines. And I'm also looking for information about technology and safety and liability, and any concerns that we have around those.
So to the last question, Helen, we've been working really closely with local districts and council on technology policy and opt-out policy, and that would be really detailed and included in that information. And back to your first part of the question, it's going to be a variety of ways. And we have to remember that, like most districts, and with with the recommendations, a lot of these things will be asynchronous as a result of a variety of things. We have people at home, staff at home, parents at home, all these different things. We want to create as many opportunities that we can for kids to connect with them. And I think we will learn as we go, in time, and we'll continue to revisit. But I do know that we will have, when we do send out a finalized remote learning plan to move towards this next phase, it will have all of this information, and it'll be really clear what the expectations and what those are. So I'm hesitant to give partial answers tonight, other than this is something we'll really work hard on, closely with the teachers, the union, the administrators, and we're finalizing it. And please know it's incredibly complex in terms of civil rights, special education, English language learners, all of our students. And we will communicate that in those details.
Thank you. Helen, anything else there?
I do have a couple more.
Sure, go ahead, Helen.
One is that I think we need to be really clear with all the constituents that they really need to follow the regular line of communications, that if they have a concern, they should start with their teacher. If their teacher, for whatever reason, isn't able to resolve it, they should go to their principal. If their principal, for whatever reason, is not able to resolve it, then it can go up to Lorraine, and that people will need to be following that line. So I hope that'll be part of the communication. I'd be interested to know I hear that we're going live at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, so I'm interested to know when your goal is to get the communication out to families. And then thirdly, I would encourage you to have a communication for the full community. Even those without children in school are really concerned about what the school's doing, and I think that the school's done a great job communicating with families. But the rest of the community is interested in our schools and our progress. So I'd like to know if there's a plan for communicating broader than the immediate service community, who obviously gets the first part of our time.
Yeah, we certainly can. Not only do we post every communication to the website, but there could be other mechanisms. We share a website with the town as well that has every update from superintendents. And we do fully expect that principals will be reaching out with all of this information in the days ahead that will provide those expectations and clarity. When you say live Monday, I think it's really important to know back to, remote learning is not virtual or online learning. And, it's the opportunity to provide more robust and structured activities, and it's going to look different at each level, and it will be clear for folks what that is. But the expectations is that we have work for kids. We'll continue to track down kids that we need to track down. Teachers and staff and administrators will work with their classes to hold office hours or different ways to communicate, and there'll be communication in a variety of ways and activities and things in a variety of ways.
Thank you, Dr. Gilligan. Helen, anything else on your end?
No, I really do appreciate all this, and it's not been done before. So congratulations, all the creative energy and thoughts you're putting into this.
Thank you. Ms. Lynch, did you have a follow-up question?
I do.
Go ahead.
So I have a couple of questions. The first one is, will the assignments that are being rolled out starting Monday, will they be coordinated by grade? So every grade 4 in the district is getting the same assignments? Would it be by the school, all grade 4 of one school, or is it by individual class?
So we're looking to provide the most consistency possible, and we'll have standards across different levels, but we'll be working, teachers know their kids best, so we'll be working with that for folks to communicate with their kids. So there'll be standards across that we're covering, and there'll also be teachers working in different ways. Lorene, am I saying that correctly?
Hi. So yes. So for example, across the elementary schools, we have standards, reading, writing, and math that the students will be addressing. The standard will be the same across all grades and across all schools. However, individual schools will be working by grade level teams to coordinate what work they're going to present. Part of that is just to support the teachers as well. We don't know what is going to happen in the future. We don't know if teachers may become ill, a family member may become ill, so we don't want anybody hanging out there on their own. So that grade level team is going to be that support system, and they will collaborate on work for their grade level at their school. But the standards that are addressed are across all the schools and all of the elementary schools.
That answers it. That's what I was looking for, to make sure the teachers just aren't on their own, where some teachers are assigning work and others aren't.
Yes, no, that won't happen.
Okay. And then my next question is, it might be for Marcy. I didn't get a chance to read the email you sent out tonight, but I did see it. How does the kids who are on IEPs, remote learning might not work so well for them because they need constant support. And if you've got parents trying to work and not able to give that support, how is that going to work?
It's going to be challenging. It's going to be really challenging. So, the guidance that I've given, the majority of the conversations that I've had with people is to keep in contact with their families. We don't, a lot of it we're not going to know until we get started with it. But the conversations are about, we need to be flexible. We don't want to set up people to fail. We have the guidance is that, we continue to work on the goals and objectives, but that also has to be reasonable for all parties. So there's so many factors that play into that until really we get started and have those conversations with the individuals involved, I think the great thing about special educators is that, they're very used to adapting because that's what they do. That's pretty much what their whole career has been. So, I think we'll get there. And I had said in the letter, it's going to take a couple of weeks, but it's really going to be an individualized process.
Could it be possible that there would be some form of online learning for them?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. There's combinations. We're looking similar to what the general teachers are doing. Special ed teachers have been very busy uploading flipgrams and content and, themselves doing what their typical daily lessons, reading activities. We've met in groups as, math and reading and social emotional to look at curriculum ideas. So yeah, there's lots of different opportunities that we're looking at, and it's direct instruction, support, goals and objectives, a combination. Again, I think the thing is it has to be right for all the people involved. What we don't want to do is exacerbate, we have to be aware that with increased expectations often comes increased frustration and behaviors and concerns. So it's going to be a fine balance, and really communication is the key with all of that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I know that there's a lot of questions. I would just say that, in the details, we will have the clarity, and we're trying to just provide, like everyone, meaningful and productive learning opportunities for kids. And those examples are going to take place in a variety of ways. It may be by, besides the assignments, it could be connections through email, work packets, projects, different things posted, chats, and that will look different. And to the extent practical, we're looking to make those connections, provide that feedback, and it's going to be, like all districts, I think, a work in progress. And I think the ultimate goal, as we start for an extended closure, is to try to just make connections and provide some consistency, in a student's day. Understanding that, this will be a variety of student learning and directed opportunities and teacher-directed opportunities. So.
Anything else, Holly? No.
That's it.
Ms. Mably, we went back and forth one more time. Do you want to do any questions or comments before we move on?
Well, sure. I might as well actually just mention it here. I participated with Dr. Gilligan during the PTO president's meeting that we actually held this morning. It's a monthly meeting that I'm our liaison to, and we talked about a lot of these issues that all of my colleagues brought up tonight. But what was also really interesting is these are all parents, right, who are PTO presidents, and we all shared what's going on in our families. And it ran the gamut from parents saying that their kids are nervous about Monday because they're so nervous they're not going to know how to do it right, to the kids who are doing every single solitary beyond the classroom activity because they love it, to the other parents who are saying, like, mandatory, I'm not gonna be able to get a kid to do anything. Heard, 10 people across the board, every possible situation you can think of. Our teachers and our administrators are really trying to, it sounds like, cover everybody. It's not gonna be perfect the first day. And there are a lot of, differences between high school, kindergarten kids, and how much support people need action works. And so I just wanted to share that valuable today. And questions were brought up, and people are looking for consistent message, like Ms. Lynn, and the understanding that not everything is going to work for every single kid. And so I just want to share.
Thank you, Ms. Mably. Dr. Gilligan, does that conclude your superintendent's report, or is there more to that?
No, that's it. I just think folks need, we appreciate their patience, the very positive messages and support. We appreciate it. And, just remember, this is nothing that anyone's done. This is not things parents have done, kids have done, teachers have done, administrators or superintendents have done. And everyone's working as hard as they can, not just here in North Andover, but across Massachusetts, to be able to take care of our kids. I would just make one other point, not about this, but on a different subject, that it didn't list it, but the MSBA application, the state postponed that. It was originally, I think, an April 8th deadline. They've extended it, but we'll be submitting that as well. And that's already been through the school committee, and at this time, the select board has voted on that as well. So we'll be able to submit that in the coming days for the middle school.
Thank you, Dr. Gilligan. So I guess just, I guess I'll segue right into my chair's report and just kind of dovetail on a lot of the comments that were made by my colleagues, all great questions, comments, and a lot that I had myself. So first to Dr. Gilligan, Dr. Mealy, Lorraine, Marcy on the phone, my thanks to all of you. I know everyone said this is just an unprecedented event we're going through right now. And let's be honest, no one's really trained to do this. There's no playbook on how to do this. Everyone across the state, across the country, across the world are doing the best they can. And, I think, I think most of the parents out there understand that we're trying our best to get the information to you. But there are a lot of things that are out of our control. Some federal stuff going on, obviously. Waiting for guidance from the state commissioner has proven challenged. So just a lot of things that are out there. There are a lot of questions and the legitimate questions and concerns, but I just want the public to know that we're all in this together. I think I probably have the youngest kids on the school committee here, and it's tough. I'm working from home full time. My wife is, 1 week she was at work the whole time, and she's been back and forth. It's tough to get things done. So as much as you folks are putting this game plan into place for next week, and I commend you for your effort, I think we got to be realistic about it. I think it's going to be a challenge no matter what happens here. We're going to give parents the most information we can give them and have a game plan, but every experience in every household is unique, and I can empathize. The work trying to do with a second grader and a third grader it's incredible. But I will say that the old saying that there's an opportunity in every crisis. It is an opportunity to see my kids a lot more. And you think about in a normal day, the kids get on the bus at 7:45, and by the time you get home from work, it's like 5:30, 5:45, and you have maybe a couple hours at home with them before they go to bed. And all of a sudden, you're with them all day long. And it's a challenge. It's frustrating sometimes. And I know we all lose our temper from time to time, but it's also an opportunity to hug them a little bit more, kiss them a little more, having some, even just reading to them more often. So I'm trying to, as much as work can be so frustrating, trying to get things done remotely, it has provided an incredible opportunity, I think, to reconnect with my family, and I'm sure that's the case for the great many of people out there. So I would just say, be patient with us, be patient with your kids. We're doing the best we can here, folks. So that's basically my chair's report. I also want to say something about the public comment period. We usually have, as people who watch our meetings or come to our meetings, we usually have a public comment period at the beginning of the meeting and also at the end. We do that because we really value public comment, and I especially enjoy when people can come here and when we have the time, which is usually the case, to have a little back and forth. It's not just someone like having a screed and moving on. People who watched us have our budget hearing, our public hearing on that, got to witness a lot of good give and take and interaction with the community. So I think I got to find a way to, and I don't know if I can with this format. This was a unique situation tonight, watching all you guys up on the big screen. I guess I'm gonna judge you or rate you who had the best background, by the way, later on. it's just it's a tough media forum to really have good constructive public input. But I'm going to give it some thought over the. We will have at least one more meeting before May 4th. I think we're scheduled now for April 16th. So I will be giving a lot more thought about how to execute public comment, whether it's written or whatever. And people can expect to see more information on that prior to our next meeting. So I thank you for your patience on that. Okay, moving on the agenda. We have nothing under old business. I'll put the glasses back on because I have a very small writing on this agenda. New business update on the financial impact of the coronavirus crisis. This is Dr. Mealy.
Yeah, so the biggest question, not surprisingly, that we get is are employees going to continue to get paid? And yes, we are continuing to pay all of our employees their regular pay. And they're all working from home, or I was remiss when I was talking about delivering the food that I didn't talk about our food service employees who have been showing up every day and prepping all those meals and delivering them. So, we need to really appreciate what they've been doing as well, and our custodians who've been showing up every day. So they're all either here or working from home and going to continue to get paid. We'll have some questions going forward about some of those activities that are additional to regular pay, like stipends for work maybe that isn't being done or hasn't even happened yet, like spring sports. So we'll have to make some decisions around those. The overall, the general fund is not really going to be impacted much by this. In the same way that we're trying to make sure our employees aren't harmed by this and are continuing to get paid, the federal and state governments have been encouraging everyone to continue to pay vendors as well because they have employees. If you think about food services, transportation, and the out-of-district tuition, those schools that provide our students with services at other schools need to continue to pay their employees, and we need them to be up and running when we are ready to go back to school, whether it's this year or next. Towards that effort, the federal government has come out with the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as CARES. And basically, they're asking us to continue to pay our out-of-district tuition and our vendors, like the transportation vendors, in order to be eligible for the federal funding that will be provided to towns and schools. I've been asked to coordinate the negotiation with our transportation vendor, and kind of working with the other business managers around the area who also use NRT. And so either tomorrow or next week, we'll be meeting with the owner of that company to negotiate a possible reduced rate that would still allow him to keep all his employees paid and him in business, so that when we are back and up and running, they're ready to go. So I'll keep you updated on that. So like I said, the overall budget, people anticipate, maybe there's a big savings, but there really isn't, because we're continuing to pay all these things that have been budgeted, and things like materials and supplies will see a small reduction just because we're not purchasing materials for the daily activity, but that's not a large number at this point in the year, so there's not a big savings there. So we don't see much of an impact to the general fund budget. Revolving accounts, on the other hand, rely on revenue, and so you have athletics, which we don't anticipate a big impact just because the fees that you would see for the spring sports pay for things like transportation and officials for those spring sports, which if they're not happening, we're not doing the expenses as well. So for athletics, it's kind of a wash. For community programs, they are going to be impacted because their programs aren't running, they're not getting the revenue they anticipated, and Rick Gallant, our director of community programs, is continuing to pay some of his site coordinators to continue to provide some online programming and prepare programs for when we are back up and running. So he'll see an impact for that lost revenue. And food services, we were fortunate that we were able to provide the meals and be eligible for the reimbursement right from the start. So Erica does not anticipate a negative impact to the food services budget because of the anticipated reimbursement for the meals she's been providing and the funding that the town will provide for the additional meals that they've been making as well. So she doesn't at this time, and this could change for any of them, anticipate an impact to food services. So right now, we're only anticipating community programs. Not sure what that extent will be yet. But that's it. Any questions?
Before I turn to the members, just my 2 cents, especially as you're going to be talking to the transportation company soon, I guess one question that I would have is, has he laid off his employees already? I mean, I'd hate to, I think it's a discussion you need to have, and I understand the outlay that he has, but if he's laid off his folks, I would question whether we would continue to pay him, So I think that's something I'm sure you'll discuss.
Yeah, and we have already discussed it, and we've been told that he hasn't. Yeah. And we would insist on an assurance or some type of verification going forward that they are continue to be employed and paid.
Yeah. No, this is a tough time for everybody. I know a lot of people have lost their jobs. The unemployment numbers are through the roof, and there's going to be, a lot of pain and suffering. So if we can help mitigate that, but I want to make sure that it's going to the employees.
Exactly.
All right. So let's go to the members. Ms. Mabley, do you have any questions for Dr. Maley?
You're going to continue to update us throughout the year anyway, but you would have reported to us several times about that gap that we have. This won't be filled by any small savings from printing and paper, but do you foresee having to do any other special things to make that up at this point?
So the interesting part of this is what are going to be the logistics regarding that federal aid that we'll be eligible for. We're hearing it will be based on our Title I amount. So that means North Andover doesn't get as much as Haverhill or other communities like that. So the fact that we don't anticipate a lot of additional expenses, whatever we do get, we would anticipate would help mitigate that deficit. It's just a matter of how much will it be. So that remains to be seen.
Okay, Ms. Mabley, anything else? She's shaking her head no. Ms. Picard.
All set.
Ms. Lynch.
Yeah, I have a question. How will the special education costs affect this if we have to provide home services or individual services? Well, the circuit breaker won't cover that, I'm assuming.
Well, for instance, the out-of-district tuitions that we're going to continue to pay will still be eligible for tuition reimbursement if they normally would be. And the same for any of the services. If a student reaches that threshold of low 40,000, anything over that amount is eligible for circuit breaker reimbursement. That will continue to be the case.
I meant more like some of the services we're going to have to provide to keep up with compensatory. I know the guidance from the state has been limited.
Yeah. So that one, we're still waiting to hear how that's going to be handled. Obviously, we'll provide and then worry about how it's going to be funded or if there will be help in funding that.
And Holly, I think a good point to that is that all districts are facing that challenge of what that impact may be. So that guidance has changed pretty regularly, but we're going to go forward our best of continuing to provide the best services we can for kids.
Thank you.
Mr. McDevitt.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it, Dr. Mealy?
That was it.
Okay. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Dr. Gilligan, anything else? Excuse me. Before I turn back to the members, Dr. Gilligan, anything else on your end? You don't have to have something.
No, I know. I just heard you. I just say that, working on these new guidelines, we're taking steps so that all the students can move forward, continue to learn and grow to the best of their abilities, and put the supports in place. But please know, it's not lost on us the challenges that all families face. And I hope everyone's well and stays healthy.
Thank you, Dr. Gilligan. Usually at this part of the meeting, we turn to the members and ask if they have any closing comments. They usually talk about events that they're going to. So I can't imagine there's a lot of events, but Mr. McDevitt, do you have anything you want to close with tonight?
I would just like to say, I mean, the number of tweets that have kind of come out from faculty and staff, administration, just kind of sharing stories that are out there in the community has been really amazing and heartwarming. I saw, a tweet the other day of a teacher who went and played tic-tac-toe, on the window of a student's class. It was picked up, I think, by, Channel 5 or Channel 7, one of the news stations, just one of the examples that I think our teachers are really, and staff are really going above and beyond at this difficult time. And, their communication has been great. Their support of our students has been great. And I think in most of the emails that I have seen, they have really said how much they miss the students. I think the students miss their teachers. And I will say, as a parent of 3, I really miss the teachers. And I miss them being in school and being with you, even if it's only 180 days a year. But we really want to thank them for everything that they've been doing for the students in the community of North Andover. It really has been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Holly, anything you want to close with?
Yeah, and I think this comment might have been raised by someone tonight, but we just can't over communicate in this time. I know you're working really long hours, and I know everything is kind of in flux, but even just to tell parents things are still in flux, we're working on it, would go a long way. And I would encourage the teachers also to reach out and communicate, even just to say, hi, how you doing?
Ms. Mably?
Yes, one thing that I forgot to mention that came up this morning during the PTO question was the fact we've made available, and I think are going to continue to do the other supports and other faculty and other staff are providing. All of this, we're getting our kids. We have a lot of kids who are scared, kids who maybe have relatives who are ill. All this, they don't understand what's happening, or they understand too well what's happening and they're scared. So the fact that these trusted adults through the nursing, through the God reach out to it is really, really important. And I so
Thank you, Amy.
that you all know that that's there. We're thankful. That's a whole other piece that school provides, and that I know our staff are trying to continue to provide.
Thanks, Amy. Helen?
Yeah, I just want to let the committee know and the community that I was in a similar meeting this morning with Crest Collaborative, which is our regional special education program for students who might need to be placed out of district. And I know we work with several collaboratives, but I serve on the board of the Crest Collaborative, and we had a similar meeting, similar conversations, and doing similar things with the collaborative as we're doing with the school committee. That is to say, services are going to continue with all the students. People are going to continue to be paid. And you might remember that the Crest Collaborative was in the process of a real estate purchase and sales process, and that is going forward, even though these have been difficult times. So I appreciate that and the work that everybody's doing in district. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And I'll just say, after much deliberation and watching the 4 of you on the big screen up there, I think I'm going to vote for Holly having the best background up there. She had the Celtics in the back there, and she had some other stuff on the other side. The door open, looked good. Andrew, the beard, I'm not sure the beard really works for us here, but, I guess we have another 4 or 5 weeks of it at least. So we'll see what you look like on April 16th. We might just have to have your old picture up there instead. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn, please.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Ms. Mably, second by Ms. Lynch. Ms. Mably, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. McDevitt, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Lynch, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Ms. Picard, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chair, I vote yes as well. We are adjourned at 8:10. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for your patience.
Thank you.